Hey everyone, how's it going? And welcome to another week of Force of Will news. As always, if you guys are looking for Force of Will singles or a sealed product, including singles from the new set Strangers of New Valhalla, be sure to click the link in the description below for Happy Little Hug Factory. And keep an eye out, we'll have some cool stuff coming from them as well later in the week. So just keep an eye out for that. Be sure to support them, and by supporting them, you also help support us. So once again, click that link in the description below. So if you guys have missed it, a lot has happened this past week and some things you might not know about. So we'll go ahead and just jump into the news for this week. First up, we actually got a look at the European promo cards for stones. So if you guys remember, they had done some dual stones a while back that were really cool looking. I think Happy Little Hug Factory actually still has a couple in stock at least. They were really cool looking. It was basically different things like different dragons and stuff set to the backdrop of different landmarks in Europe. So obviously dual stones aren't as relevant at this point in time, but they actually came out and they're coming out with basic stones for all 5 colors. I'll have those cycling right here, what those all look like and stuff like that. So that's really awesome. I actually really like the look of them, and it also makes them a lot more valuable because these are stones that will always be available, always not available, but always be useful inside of the game, because basic stones will always be legal and they won't ever be banned or anything like that. So, and they'd be cool just to have a full set of these to have flipping from your deck in New Frontiers or Wander or what have you. So pretty excited about these and hope they're not as expensive as the dual stones, but we'll wait and find out. Speaking of promos and stuff like that, we got our first information for the next set, Awakening of the Ancients, I believe it's called. And so these stuff went up on the different sites for ordering from the distributors and stuff like that, and someone had pointed out that it looks like the playmat for buying a case 6 boxes is no longer there, so you just don't get the playmat anymore. We're not sure why it is. Maybe it's in an indirect way related to something we had covered before, where the pre-release playmat we had noticed was lower quality, so maybe the place where they usually get them isn't available, and so they had to just go with someone else temporarily for the pre-release mats, and because of that situation they weren't able to get them for this. Or maybe they're just moving away from it in general, since the market is pretty flooded with a bunch of different playmats from Force of Will. They might go in a different direction, because I think it was pointed out that it looks like there might also be extra promos, or more than just one promo for the buy a box. So maybe there's a promo for buying 6 boxes, a promo card, which actually might, I personally would like more. Not that I usually buy 6 boxes, but it's just a cooler thing to have out there in the areas, promos that are a little bit more valuable. So we'll wait and see what happens with that. With this information, we also got a card preview. So if you guys remember, they actually did this for Strangers of New Valhalla. We just got sort of the text of the card released, and it was for Rune of Earth. And so this time around, we got info for a card that looks like in basically a functional, slightly different reprint of Sprout of Treasure Tree. So this new card is called Sapling of the Treasure Tree. Instead of the old one where it was green, this one is actually light colored, and it's still 1 cost, 0 attack, 100 defense, and it has the ability that you can tap it and discard a card, and you remove it from game, and not the card you're discarding, you remove the sapling from game and produce 3 white will. And it also has a tap it and also tap 1 white will, and sack it to destroy an addition. So that's pretty interesting. I'm curious how balanced that might be going forward, especially with how powerful I think Brunhild might be. This is perfect inside of Brunhild, because it's you can basically, one scenario I thought of, because Brunhild benefits from things that allow it to discard, especially if you get to choose what you're discarding. So one scenario was you play the Sprout turn 1, turn 2 you have 2 stones and you get rid of the Sprout and you discard a 3-cost card, let's say Alice, and then you use the 3 will plus your 2 stones, so 5 will total, play Mistletoe. Comes in the field, use the 2 will to play one of your runes for free, essentially from your rune area, if you have a 2-cost or less one that you can do. And when you do that, you're able to bring in Alice through Mistletoe's ability, and you turn 2 without having to energize or do anything crazy. You got Mistletoe and Alice in the field, which is a pretty decent play, in addition to whatever rune you might have done. So I'm curious how this will play out, because it seems really strong to me, but I could be reading too much into it. People have pointed out that you can just Sandstorm it, but Sandstorm isn't quick cast, so you can only do it to your main phase. and you're making them use their Sandstorm on your 1-cost card, which isn't too bad of a trade-off, and you have more you can use later. It's not like they become less powerful as the game goes on, because 3-will is 3-will, and you can still banish it in response and produce 3-will to potentially play something instead. So I think it's pretty strong, but like I said, we'll see. Next, this was something I noticed that I thought was kind of weird. So we had talked about before the monthly promos was these 2 cards that were really cool looking, but I think we had them in German or something like that. So I was looking and I noticed that the English Force Will page hasn't actually spoiled them yet. And if you go back and look, this monthly promos are usually spoiled officially from Force of Will between the 10th and 20th of the month, like say December 10th, I think the last one was December 20th, before that was November 16th, and so on and so forth. And so I went to look, and because I had it, and they haven't spoiled it yet. And so, in case you don't know, today's February 6th, so as of right now, they still haven't spoiled it, so that's at minimum of 2 weeks late, coming up close to 3 weeks or 2.5 weeks, something like that. So I thought that was kind of weird. I hope there's nothing being delayed or anything like that with the promos, but it's just something I thought I'd point out because, yeah, I was looking forward to seeing the high-res pics of that in English, and we haven't gotten that yet, so just something I thought I'd mention. Also, I'll real quick just go over a couple updates on the video I did for Quinn. If you missed that, I highly recommend going and watching or reading the article I did for the unbanning of Quinn Kateki, and the article that I wrote at the very bottom has any updates. I'm just going to briefly go over those updates for anyone who might have missed it, maybe watched the video when it first came out or read the article and hasn't checked back since then. But since then, I added in the update section one other instance that was on video of him at least attempting to cheat, it looked like. And I also added an update, which was Robert had the head of the US events had posted saying that Quinn is still banned, at least from him, for his events and stuff like that. But when I asked him further, he said from all Force of Will events. So, which is contradictory to what the company said. So as of right now, I haven't gotten an official statement from the company on whether who is correct and who isn't officially. But as of right now, Robert says he's banned everywhere and the company says otherwise. So hopefully the company comes out and clarifies which it is for sure, because that's not something you want sort of confused about going into the GP season. So I'll keep you guys updated on that. And like I said, you can just keep checking back in the article and just scroll down to the very bottom, and I'll be sure to update that with any information. And like I said, you can check the Quinn video for more details than that, as well as our podcast. We go into a little bit more detail on some of the information regarding the post-video reactions and all that. But I will say thanks a lot for everyone who watched the video and gave positive feedback. It was very well received, both in the article everywhere. So thanks for the support for that. I put a little bit of effort into it, so I'm glad everyone enjoyed it. In news from across the sea, Japan GP was just canceled. So if you guys don't know, they had one GP already, and they had 2 more. One was happening, I think, in a month, and the other is just to be determined. We have no information for it. The one that was happening in a month was canceled for security reasons. I just put quotes above that. That's the only explanation as far as I can tell that we were given, and actually caused a lot of concern in the community over there. If you check Twitter and stuff like that, everyone's very concerned about what's happening. So hopefully a more in-depth something comes out from the company about maybe specifics on why it suddenly couldn't do it there, and maybe if it's replacing it with another GP, or at least give dates or info on the remaining TBD GP or something like that. But yeah, people are pretty upset or concerned about that, so hopefully some information about that comes out as well soon. And now for the big news. If you guys haven't seen already, if you're not on Facebook or Discord or missed the podcast, Jeff Finnegan, the global liaison for Force of Will, has left the company. It was done in an official post on the Force of Will page where it said that he is no longer part of Force of Will headquarters, and that the position global liaison that he is a part of is being dissolved as well, and that more information would come in the next couple days. It's important to note at the time of recording this video, it has now been 4 days since that post, and we still have not heard information. He also did a follow-up post in the main US group, just clarifying that he was not let go for anything he did, and specifically not for the Rudy video, which was a lot of speculation, that he it was for something else or some other circumstance that we don't know, which obviously will be clarified at a different point, which, like I said, as of right now has not been clarified. So yeah, I'm really, well, one, as you listen to podcasts or anything like that, obviously everyone is very upset about this, including myself. This came as a shock to everyone because this came off a hot streak of a lot of stuff going well for the company, it seemed, including Jeff doing the Rudy interview, which went over really well and looked like it brought in several players that I could visually see. Obviously probably brought in a lot more. And so this just came out of nowhere. It felt like we don't know the circumstances, if Jeff left on his own accord, if the company asked him to leave or what have you. I find it really suspicious that they're dissolving the position, which is, I feel like, has been a very important position since Jeff took over. And even though it wasn't that official position and a lot of people didn't like him, we still had Jordan before that. So we had some sort of communication with the company in some effect, and without Jordan or Jeff, we would have had nothing. And so as of right now, we're not going to have anything, which is very upsetting. And it's even weirder that Jeff would do that post and then just leave and not say anything. Even if it was for only 2 days, like he originally said it was going to be, that's still strange, all things considered. You're just putting information out there and letting the community like sort of mold that over and imagine every worst case scenario. It's not something that you should do as a company. Like, why not just wait a couple days for Jeff to do that post as well as an explanation? So I'm kind of curious why that is, why they chose to go that direction. It's had a lot of people upset and concerned on the game as a whole, so it doesn't help settle anything going around that way. So I'm curious why they chose to go that direction and why we still haven't heard anything as of now. Knowing my luck, information came out before this video is being released, so we'll find out. I'll pin a comment if anything comes out after I've recorded this video. But yeah, we're all very sad to see Jeff go. We talked about it, like I said, on the podcast, so it does suck. I will say, and I said this on the podcast as well, I would highly recommend, and I've never done this before, and I won't do it after this, but to subscribe and hit the bell for notifications for any news that comes out, because when news comes out, we will be posting videos as quickly as physically possible to get the news out to you. And if I'm hoping, let's say I've heard some stuff, and if any of that comes to fruition, I have stuff set up to release for you guys pretty quick. So just stay tuned to the channel. And yeah, and I would say in a week or two, if nothing comes out, you can unhit that bell. But this is the one time I'll ask you guys to do it. But yeah, so that's all the news for this week. Let me know what you guys think of all that. Obviously, there's a lot to mull over in there, so I want to hear your guys' thoughts, especially regarding like Jeff or maybe Quinn or the promos, your guys' thoughts and ideas. And yeah, thanks you guys for tuning in, and we'll see you next week.